Welcome to the Friday edition of Juan's World, and here in Cambodia we're in the middle of a 15-day celebration called Pchum Ben. So let me explain that to you. Pchum Ben is uniquely Khmer, but there are analogues in other cultures, both in Asia and in the rest of the world. It's a period where people go to pagodas in order to honor their deceased relatives, going back sometimes many generations. And it's a 15-day celebration, which I didn't really quite understand until this year, because on the civil calendar, or I guess the religious calendar too, Pchum Ben is marked as 3 days. And I've always noted when it was. This year it's noted as October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So, I would see that on the calendar and I would go to pagodas on those days and take photos and videos and so forth. But on the equinox, which was the 22nd, Sunday, I decided, instead of taking my usual bicycle ride over to the Aussie supermarket, that I would just take my camera and go around and do some videography. And I stopped off, first of all, in Pchum Pagoda, which is fairly close to me. It's about, a kilometer away. And everyone was dressed up, and they were bringing lotus flowers and rice and whatnot in. And I thought, what is going on? Like, are they celebrating the solstice? So I sent off a note to a friend of mine and I said, what's going on? And she wrote back and she said, well, it's Pchum Ben. So I looked it up and discovered that Pchum Ben, in the grander sense, is the first 15 days of the lunar month, the 10th Khmer lunar month. And that's started like 5 days before I was at Pchum temple. That was the 5th day. And it's going to extend all the way to the 3rd of October. But people don't get truly active except on the weekends within that 15-day period. And then the 3 days at the very end, then they get very active. And Pchum Ben marks the end of what people in English usually call Buddhist Lent. It's not really Lent in the same way that Lent is in the Christian tradition. It's called Vassa in Khmer, and it's a 3-month period of retreat and meditation for the monks. You won't see them doing too much in the way of activity during those 3 months. And it's at the tail end of the rainy period. So I'll be putting some videos and some photos up as I go along. So let's just see the rainy period, the monsoon season, which will come to an end pretty much the end of October. But when it happens, it just chucks it down for about an hour and then quits. It doesn't go on all day. I mean, like right now, we're still in the rainy season. I'm looking out my window, the sky's blue with some small puffy white clouds. But by this afternoon, it'll be just drenching the earth. And it's fairly predictable. right now you get a pretty heavy downpour in the end of the day into the night. So it doesn't interrupt going to the pagoda at all. By the morning, everything's clear and people will go. On a weekday like today, you won't see too many people in the pagodas, but Saturday and Sunday coming up, you'll see a lot. And they typically dress in a stylized manner, I guess you'd call it. That is, both the men and the women wear white on top. The women wear new white blouses. They can be ornate or plain or what have you, and the men typically wear white shirts, and I do too when I go. And the men wear black trousers. The women wear, again, new skirts of different colors. It all depends. But the idea is that this is a renewal ceremony, and so you wear new clothes. And it's festive, you know, like it is an honoring of the dead, but it's very joyous. I mean, people bring food for the monks. They have these stacked containers that have food and vegetables and various other things, and they go into the pagoda and give them to the monks. And the idea is that during the period of Pchum Ben, the deceased who are in the equivalent of hell are released, and on their release, to placate them, you bring food, and by the monks eating the food, they are essentially eating it vicariously for the deceased. And they can also bring lotus flowers, which is another blessing. And all of this is in the service of what's called merit, which is part of karma, which I'm not going to get into. I'll do karma at some other point. It's mostly misunderstood. Mostly believe that that you do things of merit in this life, and you know, there's like heaven keeps a scorecard, and if your karma goes above a certain level, then you get to be reincarnated as something really nice. And if you don't, then you get to be reincarnated as something awful, or you end up in the equivalent of hell. Well, that's the popular version, and I'm not going to get into it. I'll talk about the more theologically apt description later. But the thing is that it's not just a one-day affair, that people, especially the really like devout Buddhists, think about Pchum Ben as a reflection on the people who have died in their lineage or their family for 7 generations. And that means that they have to go to a pagoda 7 times, each time for a different generation. And often they go to different pagodas. And of course you can't do 7 on weekends, you have to do it during the week as well. So like here is a pagoda I went to yesterday, and so it's a weekday, and not that many people there, but there are some, because they're doing their 7 days, 7 generations. Most people are happy with 3 days. So the final 3 days marks the end of Vassa, and on the night before, that'll be September 30th, the monks in all the pagodas will chant the suttas in Pali all night. They won't go to bed, won't go to sleep. They will chant all night. And then in the morning, people will bring their gifts, and they will do that on the 1st, and then again on the 2nd, and then again on the 3rd. And the pagodas will be really packed. And I've got some pictures that I can show you, and I hope I hope that as I'm editing this, I've been showing you already. But it's mostly festive. I mean, even though, you know, it's kind of like the Day of the Dead in a certain sense, and I mean, or like Halloween, you know, like in a sense, Halloween is supposed to be, you know, the opening of of the gates of hell prior to All Hallows Day. But it's fun, you know, and this is fun. Like, people take photographs of each other because they're in their best outfits, and I take pictures of people taking pictures, and the pagodas are really dressed up. Like Pchum surprised me because they keep adding features, and like this one, and at other pagodas, and including Pchum, but at all of them, I should say, there's some kind of decorative sand. It could be in a boat, or it could be in piles or whatever, and you're meant to put incense into the sand and give money. There are also people around who are working for the pagoda who have things for sale, which include fake money and lotuses, of course, and they also have baskets asking for money. And there are also beggars in all of the pagodas, because this is a time when people will give to like people who are disabled in some way, usually don't have a limb or an arm, whatever, and they'll beg for money as well. But on the whole, it's a time for just celebrating, you know, being with family and friends, and also eating. And there are several important dishes. The most important is what's called nom and som, which is a mix of sticky rice and banana wrapped in a banana leaf and steamed. And there's a long one, which is considered male, and a tetrahedron type one, which is considered female. And they're for sale in a lot of different places, and you can get them, you know, at pagodas or outside, whatever. You can also buy the juice from sugarcane or coconut juice, as well as slushies and all kinds of other things, fruit. You know, it's time for people to just have a holiday. And I go, and usually people will speak to me because I wear the traditional outfit of white shirt and black trousers. So they realize that I'm being respectful, and they tend to be a little bit more open to foreigners than they would normally. They have to speak to me in Khmer most of the time because they don't speak English, but it's okay. And they usually just want to know who I am, what my name is, where I come from. Sometimes they ask me what my job is, how old I am. That's a very common Cambodian question, how old are you? And they're always shocked when I say I'm 73, because I don't look like a 73-year-old Khmer man who's often dead. So it's fun, and I'm going to continue going all the way through to October 3rd, and have fun. So I hope you have fun over the weekend, even though you can't celebrate Pchum Ben. But please tell your friends about my videos. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll be back on Tuesday, maybe with a recipe, maybe with some more rambling, don't know. Have a good weekend.